Hey everyone, welcome back to the Beneath the Layers podcast. I'm your host, Larry, and I know it's been a while. We are on the second season of this podcast now, and I'm really looking forward to what this season has to offer. There's some exciting topics that we're going to be talking about, and we'll have a little bit different of a format, I guess. I know before in the first season we had a bunch of different guests coming on and sharing with us some part of their stories and their experiences and things that they've gone through and whatnot. And it'll be a little bit of that as well this season, but also at the same time, I want to kind of reach out a little bit more and get a gist of the things that people want to hear in particular, like specific topics, or maybe they have a question, a simple question that they need an elaborate answer for or something along those lines. And it could be anything. I don't claim to be a professional in any sort of field. I mean, I guess other than biology, since that's what I study, went to college for, and currently doing as a job right now. But I mean, so if you want a biological related question, we can answer those too. I mean, I don't mind doing that as well. But one thing that I found over the years is that one thing that a lot of people have in common, and it doesn't matter what status you are, if you're wealthy, poor, if you're popular, not popular, one thing that everybody always sort of kind of has an issue with, I would say, is an insecurity. Everybody has some sort of insecurity. I have insecurities. You probably have insecurities. And a lot of times we don't really understand where those begin, where they start. At what moment did you start to feel those insecurities? At what moment did you start to realize that a particular judgment from another person or people or society as a whole started to bother you in a way to where you were embarrassed by whatever that insecurity is of yours? But one thing that I think happens over the course of time is you gain insecurities and you lose them at the same time over the course of your life. You can probably think about it now, how probably five years ago or so, you had some sort of insecurity that no longer really bothers you anymore. Let me just give an example. Let's say one of the insecurities has something to do with your image, a physical insecurity. Maybe it was the way that you looked, or maybe it was the way your body was shaped, so on and so forth. But you decided to go to the gym, work out a little bit, make yourself feel better. Not only feel better, but maybe look better in your own eyes, through your own eyes. And you became a little bit more confident when it came to what your body looked like. This is just an example. This can be related to a bunch of different things. But I mean, you became a little bit more confident and you no longer feel that insecurity, or at least it's not at the level that it was before, when it would bother you and you'd feel embarrassed by it, or you feel like people are judging you because of it. You kind of sort of, in a way, worried less about it, maybe because you're doing something active about it. There's something you were actively doing to improve that part of you. Let's just say that was the thing that you did, and you kind of just that insecurity of yours just kind of was lessened, and it no longer bothers you as much. But maybe now, 5 years later, there's something else that bothers you. Maybe you don't have the job that you wanted, that you thought you would have, or maybe you're just not making as much money as you thought you would, and now that's sort of bothering you. So there's always going to be this sort of insecurity that somebody has, or that somebody can create in their own head, that they have this problem. Essentially, an insecurity is a belief that there's something wrong, or there's a problem going on within yourself, or I guess physically, if that's the case. There's a lot of people who are confident, and you see that they'll show it on Instagram, they'll show it on Twitter, all this confidence, and you are always, how you feel, that's you feel a certain way, and you look at that and you're like, wow, why can't I feel like that? Questioning yourself, like what it is about me that I can't be like them, or I want that, how do I get it? And you don't know how to approach it. Well, I'm here to tell you that one thing that I think is a major problem with the way that we think, and it's natural, it's a natural thing that we do, is we tie worries to our thoughts, and we tie worries to our futures. And what I mean by that is, when you think about what you want to be, when you think about the person that you want to become, that you also think about and you worry about, well, how long is it going to take to reach that point, or how long is it going to take me until I feel this way about myself? And see, that's the problem with that is, everybody's different, right? So if you wanted to improve yourself in a certain way, it might take you a little bit longer than somebody else did to fix a problem that they were having, that might be similar to what you're having. That's just the way that it is. Everybody's different in that way. It could even take you a lot less time. That could be true too. There's a couple different things operating here. But why I bring up worry is because I feel like worries and insecurities go hand in hand. And what I mean by that is that typically you seem to be worried and looking more towards the future than actually living in the moment now. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if you want to look a certain way, you want to be a certain way, well, you're not that now. So you're hoping that the way that you want to be, or the way you want to think, is going to be part of you sometime in the future. And you start to worry about it when things don't go your way, or you don't see results, or whatever the case might be, and you're not getting there, and now you start to feel this sort of a feeling come over you, which I guess maybe it's a mixture of disappointment in yourself. It's a mixture of like you can't do this, or you won't be able to accomplish this, a lack of accomplishment sort of feelings. It's all sort of combined into this one feeling that you think you won't become the person that you want to be. And the question that I would have for you, for those of you listening, is, well, that person that you want to be, is that actually who you want to be, or did you see it somewhere else and you didn't create this person on your own? You just saw somebody else being that type of person, and maybe they were being complimented in a way that you wish you were, and you saw that, well, this person's like this and they're getting these compliments, and I want that, so maybe I have to be that. And the first thing that you think about when you make that decision is, I want to be that, is you start to think about, well, how do I become that? And you start to lose sight of who you actually are. You see, what you did there was you came up with an idea of who you think you want to be, but it's not really who you want to be. Or not, actually, I wouldn't say it like that. I would say it more of, it's not who you are, because I'm sure you want to be yourself. You want to be unique, and you want to be different, but there's a lot of judgment in being unique and being different, because somebody will see, let's just, if you start to express yourself 100% as you. Everything that you do is you doing it because it makes you happy. You're doing it because you love the things that you are. When it comes to the way that you think, the way that you dress, the way that you conduct yourself when interacting with others, you don't want to give off the impression like all those teen movies or I would say it like this: all those movies that have like teenagers, and then you get the cool teenagers and they act a certain way, and so like a bunch of kids will see that movie and they're like, well, they're acting this way, and when they act this way they're considered the cool people, so I should do that, or that's how I should be. When in reality nobody really likes those people. Everybody wants you to be who you are, 100%. Just be you. And you don't want to have people around you who don't accept you for who you are. A bunch of people who just kind of push themselves onto you because, they have an idea of who they want to be around, and if you're not that, then they don't want you around, and then you don't at the same time want to feel like a sense of loneliness, so you'll be willing to fulfill that role just to have certain friends or whatever the case might be. But I mean, that's not making you happy, that's just kind of satisfying you for the time being. But when you think about the future, that's when you start to feel all these insecurities pop up, because it's like, when I'm thinking about the future, when I'm thinking about who I want to be, this group of people I'm hanging out with, like they're combating one another. They're not the same people. Like if I started to be the type of person I wanted to be, and I was trying to be like the type of person that this group of friends or whatever wants me to be, those are two conflicting people. They don't get along with one another. And now you're stuck in this predicament where, okay, do I want to choose myself and be happy being myself, or do I want to just put up with the antics of being this individual who everybody else approves of, and that way I won't ever have to live or be alone? It's a question. It's something I feel like we all struggle with, and I applaud those of you who have figured out a way of just being yourself and surrounding yourself with people who accept you for who that is. I mean, that's a tough thing to do, because not everybody's going to accept you for who you are. Even if they're a family member, they might not accept you for who you are. And these are all things that we end up being insecure about. It's like, well, you worry. It's like, okay, if I make this decision, what are the consequences of that? But if I make this decision, what are going to be the consequences of that? A lot of times what ends up happening is, if you choose to be the type of person that the people you surround yourself with wants you to be, then you're going to find yourself pretty unhappy, I would say. Just because maybe there's something you really love to do. Maybe there's a way of thinking that you like to think when it comes to solving a problem or making decisions. And when you aren't that, you kind of start to feel sad, depressed, maybe even really, really like confused, because you question yourself a lot. Am I making this decision for me? Am I making this decision for others? It's all part of your psyche when you start to try to fulfill the pleasures of other people, what they want. And then on the other hand, if you start making all these decisions for yourself, if you start doing what makes you happy, initially, you're probably going to lose a lot of people. That's just the way it is. You're probably going to lose a lot of people. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, though, because eventually you'll gain others. You'll gain more people. And these people are the ones that are going to be accepting for the way that you are, the way that you conduct yourself, the way that you decide to make decisions, all those sort of things. And it's a tough decision to make, especially when you're younger. I feel like this is something a lot of people sort of figure out as they grow up, as they age. It's like, why, you look back and you're like, why did I do that? Why did I make those decisions? Why did I think that by not being myself, I was doing myself a favor? And again, that's just one of those things where, okay, now you have lost that insecurity. It's an insecurity you had when you were younger. It's like, I need to have friends. I need to be accepted by these people, so on and so forth. And when you grow out of it, when you eventually decide to, again, make the decisions that make you happy, you are no longer insecure about that, but maybe there's some other things you're insecure about. See, the thing is, again, it's always like as if you're looking towards the future. So this portion of what I'm about to say is going to be more focused on living in the moment and being able to be yourself in the moment. Because when you're making those decisions about trying to be accepted by a group of people, you're not really thinking so much for yourself in this moment. What you're thinking about is more of how that's going to set you up for the future. And the thing is, well, how do you know that by making that decision, your future is going to be okay? I feel like your future is always something that you're going to be worrying about. And at what point did you start worrying about what's going to happen to you in the future? You see, because if you think back to your childhood even, and you're thinking about when you were 6 years old, 5 years old, playing in the park, are you thinking about the future at that moment? Are you thinking about what are you going to do 2 to 3 years from now? No, you're not. You're just thinking about how much fun you're having right now, going down the slides, hanging around, playing with other kids, and playing in the sand, going on the swings and all that stuff. But there does become a point where you lose that and you start thinking more about your future, and that's just the way that this society has set up. Probably around high school, when you start thinking about college because you need to get a good job and all this stuff, right? And we lose sight of just living here in the moment and being focused on what you have and all the opportunities you have available to you. If you take the opportunities for you now, that's going to create opportunities for you later. But if you're worrying about the opportunities that you want to have later, you're not going to be able to make the right decisions on the opportunities you have now to set you up for those opportunities later. You're probably going to end up failing a lot more than you would if you just live in the moment now and you take the opportunities that you have in front of you. You're going to fail either way. There's not every opportunity pans out, but you're taking more of a risk on waiting on a future opportunity that hasn't even come yet. You take the opportunity that you have now, and hopefully that'll set you up for better opportunities later. The probability is there. It's there. If you take the opportunity now, you'll set yourself up for another opportunity, possibly a better one later. It's all about taking chances, living in the moment, and just learning to be happy with yourself and the decisions you make. Of course, every decision you make is going to have a consequence, but you don't know if by making the decision, if it's going to be a good consequence or a bad consequence. You'll have both, It's kind of like a gamble, but without losing money. You're just gaining experience, whether you fail or don't fail. You're winning either way, because now you know not to make miss an opportunity like that again, or if this particular opportunity that didn't work out shows up again, now you know not to take it. You can go a different route. You can take a different path. The thinking too far ahead in the future can be detrimental to the feelings that you have now, in terms of how happy you are now. And that's something I think is really important, and it's something that you need to kind of take precedent over, and understand that just because something goes wrong in your life doesn't mean that, that's the end of anything. You just take what you have, appreciate what you have, and move forward, because one lost opportunity can be a gained opportunity elsewhere. Even if you, feel like you've made the wrong decisions all your life. It could be you've made every single wrong decision your entire life up until this point, and now you don't trust yourself making decisions. Well, why would you have somebody else who has no idea of how you feel, how you think, what you want, decide for you what you need to do or how you need to approach something? What makes them the professional in decision making? I guarantee you, every person has made a decision. At least one. No, that's false. Everybody has made more than one decision, and everybody has also made more than one wrong decision. It's all about what you're able to take away from that decision you made and learn from it, and what you can do, or what you can kind of what kind of idea can you generate that will help you when it comes time to make another decision like that, whether it's a similar one or even a harder one. We don't really know where our decisions come from, but if you actually sit down and you look back, you'll start to realize that based off the decisions you made in the past, all those experiences that you've had, those all attribute to the way that you react when an opportunity presents itself to you. Like the first opportunity you've ever had, I'm sure you had no idea how to approach it. You had no experience in wherever that opportunity is coming from, and you just said, you know what, screw it, let's go, let's do it, I'm taking this opportunity. Let's say it didn't pan out. Let's say whatever that opportunity was, a new job, maybe it was an opportunity to buy a car, maybe it was an opportunity to go on a trip, something like that. And let's say you took that opportunity. Let's say you went on a trip, right? Let's say somebody offered you this opportunity to take a trip to another city, another country, or whatever, and you take that opportunity. And let's just say it was one of the best experiences of your life, but maybe you spent more money than you thought you would, and you kind of put yourself in a hole when you got back home and you had to pay bills, so on and so forth, right? All that stuff starts to add up. So then let's say, let's bring it back a little bit. Another opportunity comes up. You're offered to go on a trip again. This time you're like, okay, that was great. I took the chance and I went on this wonderful vacation to this city or this country. But last time I spent too much money. I put myself in a hole. This time, sure, it's great. I love this. I'm going to take the opportunity, but I'm going to manage it a lot better now, because I know when I came back last time how much of a hole I put myself in. So it's all about the experiences that you get. It's all about how many opportunities are you willing to take, whether you succeed or fail or both. See, that trip example was a successful trip. You had fun, but when you came back, you had to deal with all this monetary problems that you had, right? But you learned from that. So when that next opportunity came, what you did is you went, you had fun, but you had enough fun to where you can enjoy it, but at the same time, when you came back, you didn't have the monetary issues that you did before. Stuff like that is really important, and that's why you got to take every opportunity that comes to you. The longer you wait, the less experience you're going to have when bigger decisions or bigger opportunities come up. Maybe you have a chance to land this great, amazing job, right? And you've never had a job to begin with. Like, this is your first job. They come back to you and they offer you a salary, and the salary is like more money than you've ever made at any other job before. Well, if this is your first job, I guess you never had made like a salary in the first place. I'm sure you'll be so willing to accept whatever they offer you because you have no idea, unless you do your research and kind of see where the market is, which is smart. You should definitely do that. That's like a tool that you can use to help you make decisions. But anyways, let's just say you accept it, and you go and you start working there, and you start to realize that you're doing a lot more work, or what feels like a lot more work than what they're actually paying you for. I mean, then the next time that either maybe you leave that job, or maybe they offer you a promotion or something, but there's going to be another time in your career at some point where they're going to want to negotiate with you again of a salary, whether it's an increase or if you're going to a new job, they're going to negotiate a salary with you. But this time like how much this job effort, let's say, it takes to do this job, how much stress it puts on you to do this particular job. You know that now, so you can ask for a lot more. You can negotiate harder to get more money, to get more compensation, because you deserve that, right? It's all about experience. It's all about the opportunities you take. Let's say you didn't take that first opportunity. Let's say you just declined the job. Maybe something came up, and then you go into apply a couple years later. Now you're still making a lot less money because you didn't have that experience before. You're just going to accept whatever they offered you. So I'm saying, like, if you decline opportunities, then you're going to find out pretty quickly that the less experiences you have, the less sort of knowledge you have in whatever field that you're working in, or if you're whatever conversation you might be having with somebody about a particular topic. It can be anything. Experiences you can get anywhere. You just got to take the opportunities to do it. I mean, again, like, don't think too far ahead in the future, because that's going to keep you from taking certain opportunities. Like, let's say, okay, let's talk about one thing that a lot of people probably have at least one point in their life, and that's a setback, right? A setback. Everybody has them. You were doing well, and on maybe something comes up, something happens, an unfortunate situation happens, an unforeseen situation happens, and you get put back. Maybe you're in a relationship, you were extremely happy, you break up, now you're sad, you're kind of put back, and you get into your feels a little bit, and you start to make decisions based off of how you're feeling in that moment. That's going to affect you in a certain way. And a lot of time, or maybe you lose a job, maybe you're working somewhere and the economy drops or something, and you have to get laid off, and now you feel like sad and upset. You can't provide for your family, or you can't provide for yourself even, and you just feel so dependent upon other people, so on and so forth. Whatever the case might be, it's setbacks will attribute to the insecurities that you feel. But the one thing you have to remember is to live in that moment. Don't think about, wow, like, if I don't have a job in 6 months, 8 months from now, like, I'm not gonna be able to pay rent, or I'm not gonna be able to pay these bills, I'm not gonna be able to buy food for myself or my family. But just take a step back, just like how you were set back a little bit. Take a step back, reevaluate, take what you can, what you've learned from that situation. Maybe that sort of field that you were in, that job field that you were in, where they fired you because of maybe the economy went bad or whatever. Take that experience and apply what you learned from that to create a new opportunity for yourself. And what I mean by that is, maybe the next step that you can take when it comes to this example of looking for a new job, you can apply to a job that is in a different field, one that is a little bit more stable, and not just apply to jobs that you have experience in. Because if you were laid off because the economy dropped or whatever the case might be, that kind of tells you that that field maybe isn't as stable as you thought it was. And even though you have experience in that field, what you could do is bring that experience from that field into a new field where you don't have much experience, and that makes you unique, and that gives you an opportunity to improve not only where you're working now, but yourself as a whole. And maybe you'll be making twice as much money as you were before in the future than you were when you lost your job initially. This is what I'm talking about by, if you worry too much about the future, like I'm not going to have this job, or I'm not going to have, enough money to take care of my family. Well, I mean, if you're thinking that way, that's likely going to lead you down the same path, because you're going to just be trying to find a job quickly to maybe, and the fastest way to do that obviously is to apply within your own field, right? But then let's say you get hired maybe by a different company, and the economy drops again, you might be laid off again. Instead of making twice as much, you've just been laid off twice as much within the past year. A lot of different things that insecurities can affect, a lot of different things that worrying too much about the future can affect. But at the same time, living in the present, thinking about here, thinking about now, can pay off a lot more later down in the future. But you won't realize that. You won't realize that until you actually practice it. You won't realize that until you actually learn what it means to live in the moment, to live in the present, to take any opportunity that you see fit and just roll with it. We can talk about this all day. I mean, there's a lot of different things that goes with insecurity. But the thing that I wanted to focus on the most is, one, how insecurity and thinking about your future affects you, and two, about how just living in the moment, thinking about the present time, can solve that issue. Of course, it's not like it's not a fast fix. That's the difference, and that's why people go more towards towards thinking more futuristic, because it's more it's faster to make decisions based off what you expect in the future. But if those don't pan out, the loss is a lot greater, because then you're going to start to feel like you're wasting time, that you wasted time. But if you live in the moment, if you take everything in, all the opportunities that come to you, and you roll with it, there's more risk, higher reward though. More risk, higher reward. And that's just that. That being said, I think honestly, when I started this, I didn't think that this was the topic that I was going to talk about, but it just ended up being that way somehow, some way. And that's just how it is. But anyways, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time. And again, what we want to do with this podcast, we'll change it up just a little bit. I'd love to hear from questions that the listeners might have about any topic. I'm down to talk about anything. I have decent amount of knowledge on a wide variety of topics, but at the same time, I'm really open to learning about things that I don't know about. So if somebody can explain something that maybe I don't have a lot of knowledge on, then I'm so willing to have a conversation, sit down, or just have some sort of conversation and talk about different topics and different things, and open it up to a conversation, because I think that's what helps move us as a whole forward, is if we can be open, if we can talk about a variety of different topics without getting upset or getting all flustered about something that somebody's saying. Because the thing is, we do that, and that happens to us when we don't quite understand where somebody else is coming from. And if we can just understand where each and every single one of us is coming from, then I feel like we as a whole can move forward in a progressive manner where we can all get along, we can all understand one another, and we can all live happier lives. And that's just like, it sounds so easy, but it's so difficult to do, right? It all starts with this. Let's just be open, converse with one another, and keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. See you next time.